Kelly, your comments are making me inspired to make videos, so hope you don't mind. Again, people in the comments, no pylons, please. We're just chit-chatting, okay? Happy to have comments reflecting on the thoughts that we exchange, but no need to attack the commenter. No need to make nice, nasty comments about them. Please, you know, I feel like when it's private citizens, let's just talk, right? It's one thing if it's a celebrity or somebody who's like a public figure, but when it's just private people, we're just talking, like, let's get the energy down. I know last week was a little crazy on this channel. So Kelly says, 4th generation baby, LOL. Only sad that my family never kept our languages. I know very little about our European ancestors, and I grew up jealous of others that still had attachments. Now, this is an excellent comment because I know a lot of people jumped in the comments when I started that video on Canadian identity, but the discussion started because I was talking about the fact that my parents are Jamaican. They moved here the year before I was born, and Canada has really been mostly all I've known. And in Jamaican culture, if you're not born and raised on the island, you are not allowed to call yourself Jamaican. And I was kind of talking about that and how weird it is that people will look at me and identify me as being somebody from that community. And meanwhile, if I was to identify myself as being from that community, it would be a problem because I wasn't born and raised there. So I don't fit the quote unquote criteria of being called a Jamaican. But the point that you brought up is actually quite interesting. So technically, Jamaica doesn't have like an official language. Again, that's even a very nuanced, difficult conversation because there are people who say that Jamaican patois is just a Creole, like a mixture of English and West African words and other words that were created. And it does have its own kind of language and syntax and standard spellings and grammatical structures and things like that. So there are people who will argue that Jamaican patois is a language. There are other people who just say, oh, it's just broken English. And there are other people who say it's a dialect of English. And I don't even know if I want to get into that conversation because that's like super complex, and I don't really know if I have the means to do that conversation justice. And I think that my bitter feelings with my Jamaican heritage kind of bleed into this conversation a little bit too. But I will say that my parents made the active choice for us as children to not learn patois. They really didn't speak it. I mean, they spoke it to themselves, and we would hear them speaking it, but then when it was directing conversation towards us, they were very strict about speaking to us in English. Most of the content we grew up on was English-speaking content. Occasionally, we'd get a book from Miss Lou. Occasionally, we'd get some Anansi stories and read through it. Occasionally, we'd get some videos from Oliver Samuels or some Jamaican comedian that was blowing up, usually a Christian one, you know. And eventually, you know, I got put on to Papa San when he was making gospel reggae. But for the most part, the linguistic culture of Jamaica, other than hearing people speaking it around me, I didn't really get that experience with it. Even today, when people come up to me and speak patois to me, like, I'll stare at them, not because I don't know how to explain it, but like when people come up to me and they start speaking in patois, and then I kind of just look at them and I don't respond, and they're like, oh, sorry, I thought something else. And I know what they're thinking. They're like, oh, I thought you were Jamaican. That's why I was like speaking patois to you. But it's like, I'm not staring at you because like I don't necessarily understand. I'm staring at you because like my brain has like a 5-second, 10-second delay when I hear patois. Like people will be speaking patois to me, and like you'll be speaking it, and then like by the time you're on the 4th sentence, I caught the 1st sentence. And even myself, it's very rare that I come out and speak patois. Like I better be like super tired or super angry. That's only time when I feel like it comes out naturally. Like I very rarely speak patois, very rarely. And I don't know if I ever will. You know, back when I was a kid, when I was really excited about my Jamaican heritage and identity, like I would try and speak it and I would try and boost it and stuff like that. And I remember people shutting me down and telling me that how I sound like a Jamaican and how I sound like I have a potato in my mouth and I don't even sound like a real Jamaican and I'm saying all the words wrong and da 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 da. And you know, people just mock and mock and mock and mock and mock. And after a while I said, okay, well, I'm just not going to learn it then. I'm just not going to learn it then. And I stopped speaking it. I stopped listening to anything with it. I stopped reading anything with it. And I just put it to the side and just decided I wasn't going to really engage with it. And I know my parents as well kind of made an active choice to not actively teach us how to speak Patois. And that was their choice. You know, my mother was a teacher and, you know, she worked with a lot of at-risk students and recognized that sometimes when students would grow up in homes that were multilingual or the parents spoke a language and or dialect that was different from standardized English, and teachers were made aware of that, particularly the teachers of a certain variety, those students would often be put in ESL, English as a second language. And those students would often get marked down for how they wrote or how they spoke, and it would kind of follow them throughout their academic careers. And so she made the conscious choice to raise us up learning, speaking, communicating in standardized English because she wanted to make sure that we had the best opportunities in life in Canada. And to be fair, I can't fault her for that. She did what she could to try and set us up for success. You know, I have my issues with my mother, but I don't necessarily have that as an issue with her. But I will say, again, I've been kind of beating this same dead horse, but I truly do believe that the Jamaican community, I mean, granted, Jamaica is still the biggest island in terms of cultural impact worldwide. But I still think there's a lot of work to be done with the community in terms of handling the diaspora around the world, because let's be honest, there's a half Jamaican everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a half Jamaican North Korean right now. I wouldn't even be surprised. The minute we find out there is extraterrestrial life, there's going to be a half Jamaican and a half Nigerian. Let me know that. We're going to be everywhere. Okay, we are going to be everywhere. We are. Well, I shouldn't say we, because I'm not Jamaican. My family is, but I'm not. But yeah, the Jamaicans are everywhere. But you know, half of me thinks to myself, I'm like, if I ever have kids, would I pass on anything? Because like now the way your comment goes, Kelly, you're talking about how you're a fourth gen, your family never kept the languages, and you know so little about your ancestors. And what was the rest of the comment? I forgot it. I'm sorry. Okay, so you said fourth gen baby, lol. Only sad that my parents never kept our languages. I know very little about our European ancestors and grew up jealous of others who still had attachments. And you know what? I really loved that comment because it kind of took me back. It took me back to thinking about the conversation I was trying to have, talking about, you know, being of Jamaican heritage and what does that look like for the future moving forward? You know, is it that, am I going to leave everything behind? Am I going to take a little bit with me moving forward? I don't know yet if I'm going to have kids or not. I might. I'm on the fence, but we're kind of a 60-40 split, 60 being yes. So we'll see where life takes me though. But if I do, I sit back and I'm like, I kind of still want my kids to learn about Miss Lou and Papa San. And when they're older, maybe Sean Paul and Anansi stories and things like that. Like little things I'll take on and some of the food. But like the real richness of the culture and the heritage and the language, I don't know. I feel like that might get left behind, you know, because I didn't resonate with it, you know? So I don't know.